Now we are, with God's help, learning a speech that the Rebbe made in 1991, in the middle of the month of Elul. And of course, it's going to talk about going to war. That's this week's Torah portion, about going milchama, when you go to war. And as usual, about the month of Elul. And of course, most important, Moshiach. That's the topic of Chabad. And God willing, it's going to be the topic of everybody soon. Let's go. So let's see. I can see my stand broke, so I'm trying to figure out ways. Yeah, let's see, maybe I can make this a little bit higher. Let's try this. We'll try experiment. Experiment number 1. Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. Good. Okay. Haseder, the order of reading the Torah, is Shemokam Shemafsikim B'Shabbos B'Shachri Shem Korim B'Mincha. That we read one Torah portion in Shabbat in the morning. We finish that portion, but then in the Mincha prayer of Shabbat, that's like in the afternoon. Most people go home and they eat, and then they come back to the synagogue and they pray the Mincha, the afternoon prayer. And part of the afternoon prayer is also reading from the Torah. But they only read just the first of the 7 sections of that week. Every week, every Torah portion is divided into 7 sections. That's why they call up 7 people on Shabbat. Each one gets another section. So on the daytime, we finish one Torah portion. In the Mincha prayer in the afternoon, so we also read the Torah, but we only read one of those 7 portions. What do we read? The next week's Torah portion. So we read just one section of the coming week. How so? Shabbat, the first Shabbat, we read in the morning Bereshit. In Mincha, they read Noach, 10 sentences or more. And this is what we do the whole year. And that, if so, it comes out that every Shabbat we read 2 portions, right? There's 2 readings. One of them is, I just want to get my, one of them is the Torah portion of that week, and the next one is one little section of next week's, a little taste of next week's portion. Okay, so if so, but nevertheless, it comes out that there's a connection between both of them. Now, again, like I've said so many times before, the essence of man is responsibility. God creates man, and the essence of what man is that he's here for a reason. Every human being. And the reason could be day-to-day things, to be honest, to help somebody. But nevertheless, everyone is here for a purpose. So how do we learn what this purpose is? And not only that, you have to have some sort of inspiration. So that's what the Torah is for. The Torah is here to give us inspiration, and even more, the Torah is alive. So the Torah portion that we read that week tells us something special and gives us special powers for that week, special inspiration for that week. Oh, so if 2 Torah portions are read together, which that's every Shabbat, so we have 2 lessons at least to learn from the Torah about what is our responsibility and how to fulfill it that week. And like I said, sometimes the responsibility is just to be positive, just to have a positive attitude. You know, that's good. Okay. So Tzorech Lavan, we have to understand regarding with these 2 Torah portions that we read on this Shabbat, Parshas Ki Teitzei, that we read in Shabbat when you go out to war, and Ki Tavo. And the other one is next week we read when you come. Ki Tavo, that we read in the Mincha. It says when you come to the land of Israel, you have to bring the first fruits. These are, it seems to be that whatever message we learn from these 2 portions is going to have to be very interesting, because it seems that there's 2 totally different topics, opposite topics. They're opposite. Ki Teitzei means to go out. Kitavo means to come back. When you come back, even in the name, it's different. This week we read Ki Teitzei Milchama. That's also going out to war. And Kitavo means coming back to peace, to the land of Israel. Let's see. B'Shem, first of all, the names of the Torah portions that the name indicates on the content. This week we read Ki Teitzei. Next week we read Kitavo. Right, in Mincha, this Shabbat we read Kitavo. Shiatzia Obia, and they're going out and coming back. These are two opposites. Also in the content, Kiteitzei, when you go out, it means when you go out to war on your enemy. Kitavo, when you come, it means you're coming back to the land of Israel and you dwell in it, being settled. The Yetzil and Milchama, going out to war and coming back to being settled. These are opposite situations, one from the other. Shekin, Av Shabbat Milchama, that war, it says it will be even though when you go out to war, that it says that the war, you're assured of victory when you go out to war. Like it says in the end of the Torah portion, Harizeh, Kashur, Imamad Matzav, the Heder Amanucha B'Tyashvut. Even if you're sure you're going to win the war, but you're still going out to war. You're still going out to war. Kamugas, like it's stressed, also in the law, the Rambam, Rambam, the Maimonides, he writes about going out to war. Going out to war. War is a very essential, unfortunately, a very essential ingredient in Judaism. The Jews, when they came to the land of Israel, so they had to conquer it. God didn't just give it to them on a silver platter. When the Jews came to the land of Israel with Joshua, they had to fight 7 years and conquer all the nations that were living in Israel. Fight, battle, take over, conquering. We are a conquering nation. That's the foundation of Judaism. We got out of Israel. Where do we get this idea from? From God. God could have left us in Egypt. God himself decimated Egypt. He said, I don't want that. I want you to do the job. I'll help you. But go into Israel. You have to fight. You have to conquer. You have to drive out the people who dwell there. That's the Jewish people. And that's how the Torah starts off, by the way. If you look at the first Rashi is the main commentator of the Torah. He's written in every every Jewish, 5 books of Moses. So right in the beginning, he says, why does the Torah begin with God creating the world? God creating the world. And what do we care about God creating the world for? Just give us the commandments, tell us what to do, and get us into heaven. That's what all the other religions do, except for the ones that try to copy Judaism. What do we care about how the world was created or when it was created? Just give us the commandments, and that's the religion, right? That's the religion. It says no. It comes to tell us that this is what Rashi says, that the whole world belongs to God, and that Israel also belongs to God, and God can give it to whoever he wants to. If God wants to give all of the world to the Jews, he could do it, right? All of Africa, all of the whole world, Africa, Europe, the whole business, it all belongs to the Jews. God could do it. It's his world. It's not our world. God gives it to whoever he wants to. But that's not what God wants. God says the land of Israel belongs to the Jews, only the land of Israel. And if the non-Jews say that you are thieves, and they have a good claim to say that we're thieves, that we came and conquered the land from them. So you tell them, listen, the whole world belongs to God, and we're just taking it back. That's all. We're just doing what God said. We're just doing what God, I'm not doing what I want. If you ask me, I would have rather lived in Egypt. Egypt is a very nice place, right? Especially they would be our servants. What's wrong with that? No, that's what God. So war is an essential part of Judaism. War. And even though God assures us that we'll win the war, but we have to go, we have to fight. We can't say, okay, God, if we're going to win, so you do it. No. That's why I said the main foundation of creation is responsibility. The Jewish people are here, they're responsible to God. Why? First of all, to teach all mankind that they're also responsible to God. And that's the reason why the world exists, is because of this responsibility. So sometimes to fulfill the responsibility, you have to make a war. The war opposes the idea that there's a creator. Harizeh kashur with Mamad Matzav, the Heder Amenucha. So war is always connected to being dynamic, being in movement. Is a better word for it. Being in movement. She could, like it says in the Pesach Din, like the Rambam says, As soon as the army comes into war, right? As soon as you see the enemy, Yishan al Makom Yisrael, Mikveh Yisrael. You should rely on the on God, Mikveh Yisrael, the hope of the Jewish people. V'yasim nafsho b'kapo, and put your hand in his hand. Put your life in his hand, b'kapo. Below chashuv, don't think about your wife, don't think about your children, don't think about what's going to be with me. Maybe I'm going to get wounded. Maybe I'm going to forget about it. Yifneh mikol davar b'milchama. Think only about a war. Mikol libo from all of your heart, with all of your soul. Heipich b'tachlis, exactly the opposite of a normal situation where you're sitting with your family and you inhabit the land and you have a little garden in your backyard. That's ish tachat gafno, ish tachat te'inoto. Each person under his own vineyard and under his fig tree. Fa'ad la'havas bikurim la'acharei kibush chaluka. That's what next week's Torah portion talks about. After you take over the land of Israel, as you settle the land and you start farming it, and you bring the first fruits to the land, to the holy temple. Mereshis pri kol adama, from the beginning of the world. What am I talking about? From the beginning, the first fruits of your land, the first fruits of your produce, you have to bring that to. Very good. Okay. Mishivas meaning from the 7 types of fruits that the land of Israel is praised by. So the opposite of war. In war, you're totally unsettled. You're moving from one place to another place. Your hands are all dirty with blood, and you're stabbing people and cutting people up and doing all sorts of terrible things. But God said, this is what you have to do. That's what it says you have to do. It says, okay, if that's what I have to do, I have to do. Next week's Torah portion is saying, okay, now I'm going to tell you what you really have to do. What, another war? No. Settle the land, start farming, bring your first fruits to raise a family. Once again, all the time you're changing your mind. God says, listen, that's what I decided. So it's two opposites. What are we supposed to learn this week? We're supposed to learn this week what? To be at war or to be at rest? What's our message over here? Alder says similarly. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. We're getting two opposite messages from the Torah. In the daytime, we're reading about war. And in the afternoon, we're reading about total peace, ultimate peace. Alder says similarly to the Torah portions about the service of man. When you go out to war on your enemy, this indicates on going out of the godly soul from its source, from above, in the world of Atzilut, spiritual, the highest of the spiritual levels. And on this it says, Nishma shenatata bi tahoravi. We say in the morning, the soul that you gave me is pure. Leired, to come down below. War, right? The worst day of your life, without any doubt, the worst day of a person's life is his birthday. The day that you're born, that was the most traumatic, difficult, and unsettling day of ever. Frustrating, right? That you're born into the world totally helpless. You're totally helpless. If you're left alone, you're not going to live for long. You're cold and you're hungry and you're thirsty and you're crying, you're weeping, and you're just right. You're just totally, how do you say, at the mercy of the elements. Where was the soul before that? It was in the best situation possible. There were no elements. Your soul was in the essence of God, basking in true reality, feeling truth and infinite love, infinite joy, that there's no way of even expressing what it is in this world. People spend their whole lives, right, just to be on the stage and get a little bit of those applause so they can have a little tiny bit of pleasure, a little temporary high from this. In the soul, before it comes into the world, is constantly an infinite pleasure, infinite. And what does God do? God takes the soul from this wonderful situation that it's in, and it brings it down to this terrible world. Ad la'olam asiyah, to the physical world. And on this it says, Ata barata, ata yatzarta, ata nafachta. We say in our prayers in the morning, Litlabesh baguf, the soul comes out to do war. The soul comes out from a peaceful place to do war, comes into the body, into the soul, in order to refine them and to purify them, refine them, clarify them. Why does the soul come into the body? To fix up the body. that the body should be permanent. Eventually, there's going to be the raising of the dead, permanent bodies in this world, permanent bodies. No one's want to go. No one will even think of going to heaven. Until the chelko b'olam, until his portion in the world. War with the opposition. You come into the world. Who is your enemy? Yourself, your own egotism. How you react to the world, how you act in the world, especially in the time of exile. Ooh. Even when there was a holy temple, there were still internal battles that had to be fought. But now in the time of exile, there's not what to say. Because of the concealment of the world, of the darkness of exile. And what does exile mean? Simply exile means the Jews don't have any idea what a Jew is. No idea whatsoever. That's what exile is. Exile means you have no idea what is a Jew, what is God, what is Torah, what is the commandments. No idea whatsoever. Feeling, for sure not. But even an idea, at least people that have a little bit of an idea what God is, so they can have a little bit of a feeling of what God is. There were some people that had such an awareness of God and feeling of God that there was no exile by them. This is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was like that. But, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had eyes. He could see that the whole world is in exile. The whole world is, what does it mean? So you want to go out, the soul was so pure, it was so high, and God sends it into this terrible world, says the world is more terrible than God made it. We make it even more terrible. This is in the Tokef HaMenagid, and that the opposition to Judaism, the opposition to God, the opposition to holiness, the opposition to truth is so tremendously strong. Therefore, you have to make a war. You have to make a war. You have to be firm to negate it. Like the Lubavitcher Rebbe said to Bibi Netanyahu, said, if you want to succeed, you're going to have to go against 119 Knesset members. You have to go against 119 Knesset members. In other words, you got to make a war. It's quite amazing. In Israel, there's all these 500,000 people on the streets. Make peace, come on, make peace, make peace. And they've been screaming for peace. And the Arabs are just saying, please, do make peace, make peace. We're going to get you guys. Do make peace. Right? Let's attack now. Leave them alone. They're destroying themselves. Let them make peace. Peace. We want peace, and we want peace. Right? And it says peace is the worst enemy of the Jews. The worst enemy of the Jews is to make peace with our enemies that we're supposed to be fighting them. What do you don't want to fight? It's like that. There's a joke about that. The American army, they're in warring against the Germans, right? They're in World War II, and the commander says, "Okay, fix bayonets. We're going to have to do hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-hand combat." So one of the soldiers says, "What is this hand-to-hand combat? Individually, you have to pick a guy and make." He says, "Listen, Commander, could you show me my guy that I have to make peace? Maybe I can make a deal with him. Maybe I can make if it's going to be right. The whole army is fighting against us, but I have to only fight against one guy. Maybe I can make a deal with this one guy face to face. War means that there's an enemy, that the only way that you can succeed and deal with him is to realize that he is an enemy that God put here for you to defeat. That's why he's here. And so therefore, that's the parsha. Teitze talks about going out of war. The Kitavo, when it talks about Parshas Kitavo, this is talking about coming to the land of Israel that God gave you, and you will inherit it, and you will settle in it. This shows on being settled and peace. And the time when the Jewish people are on their land and there's a holy temple properly, then war is not necessary. It's the opposite from a situation of war. Now, of course, war is not good. War is not good. God put us in the world to fix up the world. Sometimes you have to have a war. Ideally, though, there's not supposed to be any war. The war is supposed to be to do more good. That's supposed to be the war, not to get rid of the bad. It's supposed to be there is no bad. You just want to do more and more good. Everyone's encouraging everybody else. Everyone has a positive word for everybody else. Why? Because we believe that our success comes from God's blessing, and our talents are God's gift to us. It's not I want and I can and I know. So if the other guy succeeds and I don't succeed, but you're not jealous of the other person because everything I have comes from God anyway. That's called peace. That's called peace. The awareness that everything comes from God and God is really, really good. And God wants a dynamic world, but not fighting against bad. He wants to do more good. And when we're not occupied with jealousy and with hatred and with the competition and with all these other things, then we can bring out our true essence. Now, we're not talking about peace being lazy, right? Being lazy. But being lazy, that's a disease. That's depression. That's depression, not being able to do anything. We're talking about being freed from negative things, that you can only do more and more positive. And the nature of human beings is they don't want to be lazy. The nature of human beings is somewhere down deep, they want to make a better world. They want to feel this responsibility to God. Okay, so if so, we have two opposites in this week's. Where are we? We're in a state of war. Yep, that's what it says in the morning. That's what we read. The Torah is alive. The Torah is giving us a message for right now. But in the Mincha prayer, we read Kitavo. That's peace. That we're in peace. The war ended so quickly. In the morning we were at war. In the afternoon we're at peace. What happened? And next year we're going to be at war again. So what's the message? Says the message like this. The content of what it says when you come to the land of Israel and you inherit it, you take it over and you dwell in it. When you read the Torah, which the Torah is eternal, and you're reading it on this day, is Shayach. This is relevant. Let me just move this over here a little bit. Maybe I should change this thing around a little bit. 1 second. My grandson did this last night. What do you say about that? Can I do this? No, I got an idea. Listen to this. Watch this. Let's see if this works. Maybe not. This is what we call experiment. Looks a little bit more rabbinic over here. No?
I don't like it.
I don't like it either. Okay. Okay, here we go. Thank you for the feedback. Here's the main thing. The Tochen, the whole point of Kitavo and the land of Israel and taking it over when you read the Torah on this day, this is relevant to coming to the land of Israel and taking it over when. Why are we reading about that now today? In the future. Let's say a person like me, I'm sitting in the land of Israel. What do I need Moshiach for? Moshiach is going to bring the Jews to Israel, so I'll bring the other Jews. He's going to bring me. I'm already here, right? I'm already here. He says, no. If I read this, it's a sign that I'm not in Israel. Not in Israel. We're going to come to Israel. Israel the way it is now, that's not it. Geographically, yes. Geographically. But that's not the point of Israel. Israel is not just another country in the world, another flag. Israel is a land where God is revealed, where the creator of the whole world that's creating the world all the time. You want to see who's creating the whole world? Where do you live? You live in Bavaria, you live in China, you live in the Brazil. No matter where you live, there's a creator who's creating you. You want to see him? Come to Israel. Israel, you see your creator. That's the land of Israel. That's what Mashiach is going to bring. That's what Kitavo is talking about. When he brings everyone to the land of Israel, that everyone will see the God of Israel, the creator of the universe, the Geula Amiti Feshlema, with a complete, total redemption by means of the Mashiach. According to this, now it's stressed even more, the difference and the distance between the two Torah portions. Ki Teitze, when you go out to war, the Ki Tavo, when you come to Israel. Lorak Beisofani is not just talking about two different types of service, serving God in a way of war and a way of peace. Shechalukim, that they're different from one another. But the difference is Shebein Avoda L'Schar, is the difference between work and reward. Karshas Teitze is talking about the war that we're making now in the time of exile. And Parshas Kitavo is talking about the reward that we're going to get for it in the future. One is giving and the other one is receiving. You can't get any more opposite than that. Be'inyan zeh, this is stressed also ba'amiras limud shnei aparakin when we learn in Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot this week. Okay, we don't do this week. This week we learned Aleph. So how is it going to be? Anyway, it'll be a different arrangement. See, what we do is we read Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot, it's a Mishnah, and it has 6 chapters in it. The last one is really a Breita, but okay. Anyway, it's 6 chapters, and it's giving all sorts of good advice about the life and about Torah and about commandments and how you should treat your fellow man, and about prayer. Wonderful, wonderful advice. There was one year we gave classes in it. I gave classes in it. You can look it up in the archives. It was like last year, I think. Pirkei Avot. In any case, so most Jews, not most Jews, anyway, a lot of Jews, religious Jews, they read one chapter of Pirkei Avot in each of the 7 weeks between, starting from the second week, the 6 weeks between Passover and Shavuot. There are 7 weeks there, and we read this, but there's a lot of communities, a lot of groups of Hasidim, other people, that I've never really looked into it, to tell you the truth, but they read until Rosh Hashanah. So in order to do that, it ends up to the last week. There's, let's say, only 2 weeks left until Rosh Hashanah, and you're just starting from the beginning. So you have to read 2 portions together, 2 chapters together. Okay, so this is stressed by when we read 2 chapters of Pirkei Avot, the first and the second, on this Shabbat. In the beginning of the first chapter of Pirkei Avot, it says Moses received the Torah from Mount Sinai. This is going to stress the whole idea of reward and work, right? Work and the wages for the work. Parshas Kitetze is talking about we have to fight. That's the work we have to do. Parshas Kitavo is talking about the wages that we receive, the results. We can see this also in Pirkei Avot that we read this Shabbat. The fact is, we read here, at least in Israel, we read, next week we read, I think maybe 2 or 3. We'll see. Anyway, we already read the first chapter this week. So next week, we don't read the first chapter, but it doesn't make any difference. The point is still here. What does it say in the first chapter of Pirkei Avot, the chapters of the ethics of the fathers, they call it? Moses received the Torah from Mount Sinai, and he gave it to Joshua, etc. Every single Jew received the Torah from Moses to Joshua, until the elders, to the prophets, to this, until the end of all generations. And they said, make a lot of pupils, a lot of students. In Torah, you're supposed to make a lot of students. Mudgeshes, this is the general service of the Jewish people in doing the Torah. That's the first chapter. The second chapter of Pirkei Avot, it says you should know that the gift, the reward for tzaddikim is in the future. This is talking about the reward. So the first chapter of Pirkei Avot is talking about doing the Torah, standing up pupils, learning the Torah. The second chapter of Pirkei Avot is talking about the reward for doing this. The reward for the tzaddikim is in the future. Okay, what does this teach us about Judaism, this idea of work and reward? We'll see in a moment. Even though just one basic thing. In Chabad especially, and the Hasidic Jews in general, there is very little stress about going to heaven. In Chabad, it's almost not stressed, even mentioned at all. Not mentioned at all. And maybe by the other groups, a little bit, but it's still not an issue at all. Baal Shem Tov did not stress going to heaven. So reward is not a really dominant motivation in Hasidic Judaism. And it really shouldn't be in Judaism at all. Because what does reward mean? Reward means you're thinking about yourself. And if you think about it just one moment, I mean, who is the self we're thinking about? It's just a big gift from God. we're being created all the time, brand new. The whole thing is just a free gift. So you're asking God for, God gave you $1 million, right? Somebody gives you $1 million, and you say to him, "But where's the band around it? I want a band around the money to hold the money together. Give me a band around the. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I gave you $1 million. Good, you gave me $1 million. Good, but you want me to it's going to get scattered all over. I want a band. Give me the guy's nuts. You're crazy. What do you want? I mean, I took the money from you, right? I'm holding it. Why should I have to suffer and hold on to this money and keep it together all the time? Give me a bit. The same thing we say, listen, God, I did Torah, I did commandments. Give me heaven. I want to go to heaven. Where's my heaven? I want to go to heaven. Just one second, take it easy. You're a creation of God. God creates you every second from nothing. You are nothing. You're a big miracle. You're thinking about reward. And so if so, this thing of reward, this is not really a very palatable subject to talk about in Hasidim. Says the Rebbe, oh yeah, really? Really? All we're thinking about is reward. All we're thinking about is reward. That's the only thing we think about day and night is only reward. What's the reward? Mashiach. Mashiach is going to come, gather all the Jewish people together, bring them to the land of Israel. The whole world is going to be peaceful, meaningful, happy. That's the reward. That's what we're working for. That's what we're thinking about. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're striving for, what we stay up late at night for, and we wake up early in the morning for, only to bring Mashiach. That's the reward. Even though that the word, the service of reward, and this is different in different times, right? This Pirkei Avot, the first one starts off with work, and the second one starts off reward. The same thing, our Torah portions. In the morning, we read about work, going out to war, and we read about the reward afterwards. Okay, different times, but it says, Hayom la'sotam u'lamachar lekabel schar. The same thing is now, we're in exile, so we're doing the work, but nevertheless, we're going to receive a big reward, and the reward is the future redemption. That's why we read both of them, Avoda and Schar, on one Shabbat, in one continuation. Right? Like I said, that was in that week when the Rebbe. Okay, what's the point we're trying to make? The beginning of the reading of the Parshas Kitavo, after we read Kitetse, this is like an explanation of Parshas Kitetse. Why are you going out to war? Why are you going out to war? We're explaining it. That's the portion we read in Mincha. In order to come to the land of Israel, the future redemption, that also when you go out to war on your enemy, it has to be in a way of peace and that you're settled. What does it mean you're settled? You're certain of victory. You're certain that the only reason you're making a war is that there should be good for the whole world. Even more, that the general service of serving God, it's already something like this in the beginning of the reward. And it was even in the war, you feel the reward. Even in the reward of the war of fighting against our enemy. And here the big enemy is ourselves and our own urges and our doubts and our lusts and our anger and things like that. We have to war against that. But in that war that we fight, and sometimes it's very difficult, we have to force ourselves, we have to force ourselves to do good and force ourselves not to refrain from bad. We have to force ourselves, but nevertheless, inside there's a little point of peace. We say the reward. We know we're doing it only for the Creator, and that the Creator wants to be revealed in this world, and that's why we're doing it. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.